I have more faith that they will eventually shut it down if the numbers aren't promising. So right now, the only thing I can say is basically we have to see how the sales and the numbers do to figure out if Google's going to stick with this for the long run. But it is a concern. Like,
Yeah.
the numbers have not been super encouraging so far.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, honestly speaking, you make a good point. And
They
that,
act, they actually have enough money to just kill these things and not give it a second thought.
exactly. They invest, they buy companies out, they hire companies, they create companies. And if you look at what Google is doing with Stadia, they are building in the like their own first party studios, they're acquiring devs. That tells me that they are serious. And if you look at different interviews with Google, they've all stated that Stadia is here for the long run. And like you stated earlier, they have the money.
Will they now? Google will have the patience to wait this out until everything's hunky-dory, right? Maybe not. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and that opening clip was from an interview I did probably sometime last year with Cloud Gaming Extreme. Now, I don't use that clip to rag on them. There's no bad blood. I love their channel, love the guys over there. They've always been nice to me. Their viewers tend to, dogpile on me with my opinions because me and them sit on different ends of the aisle of the whole cloud gaming discussion. But, I overall have fun going over there. But I had to use that clip when an argument was made that I felt that while Google would be interested in starting it now, I felt this was more of an experimental thing, that they would lose interest relatively quickly, especially if the numbers and the, people who subscribe to Google Stadia did not actually join Google Stadia. And their response was basically that Google had the money that they needed to keep this thing going for years and years and years, even if it never turned a profit. Now, before we start, completely bashing Stadia again, let's start on a positive note. I actually like Stadia. I didn't think I would. I like Stadia. I think Stadia shows what cloud gaming can be if it's done right. It's not perfect. There's still some lag sometimes, but the games are instantaneous. It's easy to play. It's easy to use all these different controllers. Live streaming with Stadia is incredibly easy, and for the most part, it's smooth. In fact, I am still a subscriber to Stadia. I actually subscribed during the pandemic when they were giving away 3 months for free, and I never stopped because I did like it a lot. However, that will probably change relatively soon because it looks like Google might be quitting Stadia relatively soon, and there will be one more product added to Killed by Google. I don't know if you've ever been to that webpage. It's a webpage that lists all these products that Google has killed. Stadia will probably join them soon. Now, to be clear, what you see in this headline does not say that Google Stadia is shutting down. In fact, contrary to what people believe, Google is going to keep Stadia on the internet for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, this is pretty much the beginning of the end for Google Stadia, and I know a lot of people have said that over the years. I've tried not to say that because I don't think it's true for the most part, but this is definitely a death blow for the server. And the headline reads, Google Stadia to stop making games assures third-party titles are still coming to the platform. Now then, here's what it says on Newsweek. Google Stadia, the cloud-based video game platform that launched in 2019, has decided that it will no longer make games. The company announced its business changes on its blog, stating that it is putting its focus on the Google Stadia platform and bringing third-party games to life on it and going away from making its own exclusive titles. Except that's a big problem because here's the thing, third-party titles are on pretty much everything. When people are going out to buy the Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch, and the PlayStation 5, third-party games are on all of them. What is Google offering if they are not making their own games? I mean, maybe they could pay for timed exclusivity, but as has been proven before, that doesn't actually sell systems. It's probably not going to sell a subscription service. Granted, okay, you don't have to have a subscription service to play a game on Google Stadia. You can just buy the game if you want. But the bottom line is third-party games are not a draw for Stadia. the first-party games are going to be a draw for Stadia. I kept Stadia because of Guilt and this other fantasy game that I can't actually remember the name, but you turn to like a frog and a bird and things like that. It's actually really fun. That's why I keep it around. Anyway, Google has been quoted as saying, "We see an important opportunity to work with partners seeking a gaming solution all built on Stadia's advanced technical infrastructure and platform tools," Phil Harrison, a vice president and general manager of Stadia, wrote on the blog. "We believe this is the best path to building Stadia into a long-term sustainable business that helps grow the industry." Prior to the blog post, Kotaku reported Monday that Google was going to go through some major changes. The outlet reported that Google would cancel multiple projects, including games slated for release beyond a specific 2021 window. Sources told Kotaku did believe games close to release would still come out because, why would you waste that money? If they're close to being finished, finish them off and put them on Stadia. Google essentially confirmed Kotaku's report in a blog when it broke down why it was moving away from making its own games. So they wrote, "Creating best-in-class games from the ground up takes many years and significant investment, and the cost is going up exponentially," Harrison wrote in the blog. "Given our focus on building on the proven technology of Stadia as well as deepening our business partnerships, we've decided that we will not be investing further into bringing exclusive content from our internal development team, SG&E, beyond any near-term planned games." But then that kind of creates a problem because that kind of says, well, we are not bringing original content to Stadia. What you can get on Stadia, you can get everywhere else. What is the point of going to Stadia at that point? The Kotaku report states Google will close its 2 game studios located in Montreal and Los Angeles, which will impact around 150 developers. Neither studio has released any games for Stadia yet. However, Google is reportedly looking to find new roles for the directors. And that's a shame that a lot of game developers got in on this. They probably said, hey, you know what, this is a gamble, but it's Google. They've got a lot of money. They're going to keep this in development for a very long time. I mean, heck, they kept the Google Glasses in development for 3 to 4 years, and those things were nowhere near a success. So, sure, games that are much easier to sell to people will be able to do that. Nope, and now it's looking like 150 people might lose their jobs if they can't get relocated. Jade Raymond, a veteran producer who was tasked with running game creation for Stadia, is exiting the company. And for those of you who don't know who Jade Raymond is, she is best known for helping build the Assassin's Creed franchise for Ubisoft before moving to EA. So she is a very important role player, I should say, in the video game industry. She came onto Stadia. She was actually kind of one of the reasons why there was a little bit of hope from some people that, hey, they're getting real video game developers with real hands-on experience. They're going to go forward. They're going to make this thing big. Numbers have never been good there. While Google Stadia will forego creating video games in the future, the company assures gamers they will continue to be able to play all games on Stadia and Stadia Pro, at least for the time being. Google also assures that new titles from third-party developers will continue to be brought to the platform, although for how long, that is another question altogether. So, here's the thing that I believe. I think this is pretty much a for sure thing that Google Stadia is on its last legs. I do. I think Stadia is on its way out the door. Now, I never bought the Pro Legacy Starter Kit, whatever the heck they call it. The Founders Kit, I think that's what it was called. I got in late, as I said, but once I got into it, I enjoyed it. But here was the big thing with Stadia. There's a lot of little reasons why Stadia never caught on. The fact that you would pay full price for games, but you wouldn't actually own them, that created an issue. The fact that you had to buy expensive controllers and stuff to play the games, I mean, maybe not as big of an issue because you have to have a controller anyway, but yeah, a little bit of an issue. The fact that Stadia ate up data. Like, for some people, that was a huge issue. I mean, yeah, in LA and New York, that's one thing. You don't care. But people in other states back east or in the middle of the country who literally cannot get that much data, Stadia was a killer. The fact that Google had promised they had overpromised and underdelivered. They promised a bunch of features that would be there for Stadia on day one. Many of those features aren't even there, including, I want to add, a search option on the Google Stadia website. Like, let's not even ignore the fact that is like completely ironic that you know, a Google product for video games does not have a search feature on its own platform. Like, crazy. That is just so crazy. I can't believe it. Also, there were little signs that Google is winding down, like when the Chromecast came out, Stadia was not supported outside the box. Like, no kidding, Sherlock. Why wouldn't Stadia be supported outside the box if on day one, unless you had no intention of going forward with it? Now, if there is one little ray of hope, Google says that they want to keep the platform available for other developers to use, and that might ultimately be Stadia's future, using the Google Stadia platform for other developers. Heck, I know Sony could really use help because their PlayStation streaming cloud thing for old games, for PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 games, doesn't work. It outright does not work. And even some of the Microsoft xCloud stuff is not as shaped as it should be. It's still a little laggy, which that was another issue with Stadia. If there was some lag, then it made games unplayable. But here's the biggest reason why I think Stadia did not work. I think Stadia did not work, and I said this in that podcast interview, that Stadia was a solution to a problem that didn't even exist. I mean, Google's whole thing was like, hey, you don't have to store your games. You can, in fact, if you're playing on this device, I'm pointing to the computer, and want to move it to that device, which is a TV, you can do it instantly. You know what? Most people don't play games that way. And you know, for that matter, the Switch already solved that problem. The storage thing, well, guess what? You could do digital and store your games in the cloud. Steam, Epic Game Store, Xbox Game Pass. These are all things that worked significantly better than Stadia. And by the way, yeah, while downloading some of these games might have been a problem, you know, it was worth it to save on bandwidth as opposed to the convenience of Stadia where you could play the game instantly, but then it sucked up bandwidth and therefore it might raise your internet bill. Stadia did not actually offer anything that gamers didn't already have. And look, I know that some games require to be played on servers, World of Warcraft, obviously, but I don't need to play Power Rangers or Panzer Dragoon on the cloud. I can play it off my hardware. There was just no incentive ever to get Stadia. Now, I kept Stadia because there were exclusive games that Google made, and they were fun, and it made live streaming easier. But now with this, I mean, once I finish those games, I'm going to cancel. I don't need another subscription service, and Google isn't going to actually offer me anything. Most of these games are available in the Xbox Game Pass. So look, it was fun. It's a shame that they got off on the wrong foot. It's a shame it didn't improve fast enough. And I feel really bad for the people who paid $60 for a bunch of games that are now in question. What's going to happen to those games? You technically don't own them. And Stadia was... And here's what I warned people earlier. If Stadia succeeds, look, this could be a good thing. But if they fail, they're going to ruin cloud gaming for a lot of people for a very long time. And we might be looking at one of those situations. Anyway, I would like to know what all of you think about the situation. Do you own Stadia? Did you ever own Stadia? Did you plan to own Stadia? And are you going to get Stadia now? I know I say owned as if you can own it. There's no own. You just subscribe. I would love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, blame responsibly. Have a good one.